Hello everyone and welcome to a game I'm pretty sure you knew I would cover from round 6 of the 2022 Tata Steel Chess Tournament. It's Fabiano Caruana versus Anish Giri, and the game features, okay, it's not one of the greatest blunders that were ever made, but definitely the greatest blunder that was made in a very long time, especially in classical chess. This is, I mean, you have pretty much infinite time. After 40 moves are made, you get additional time, you get 50 more minutes on the clock, then you have the increment. Then, I mean, you can't really run out of time in this tournament. So the problem with this game is that the crucial blunder happened on move 40. So one more move had to be made for the time control to be reached, well, it just didn't go very well for one of the players. You'll see what I mean by this. And like I said, it's not like there's the Petrosian versus David Bronstein in the 1956 candidates where Queen was blundered on d6. Then there's the famous game that we've covered, Karpov versus Barev, where Karpov just blunders mate in one. There's Kramnik against Deep Fritz, I think that was in 2008 or maybe 2006, where he blundered a mate in one. It was that nasty queen to h7 checkmate. So there are these incredible blunders that were made in classical time format. There are many blunders, of course, in blitz and rapid and faster time formats, like Vasil Ivanchuk missing mate in one against Anand, if you remember that blitz game. We've also covered it. So there are many examples, but this is a fresh one in the computer era, and it's, well, let's check it out. So Fabi with the white pieces opens with knight to f3. We have another ready opening, d5 by Anish, and now b3 by Fabi, going for the Nimzowitsch-Larsen attack. We have bishop to f5 and now bishop to b2. So this is all very much standard nowadays, because everyone is prepared against b3 and all of the variations of the b3 opening. We have e6, g3, h6, and bishop to g2. So this is still all very nice standard theory. Knight to f6, castles, with bishop to e7, and now d3, preparing to strike in the center with e4 at some point. We have castles and knight b to d2, gaining more control over the e4 square. a5, and now a3. We have c6 by black, and now rook to e1. We have bishop to h7. This bishop to h7 move is played in pretty much all the lines. It's just a matter of the move order where you want to play it. e4, Fabi strikes in the center, and now knight b to d7. Anish continues development. We have queen to e2, and now queen to b6, preparing bishop to c5 to put pressure on this f2 pawn, but okay, the queen is already defending it. We have a4, and now comes rook f to c8. There is a game where knight to c5 was played, but here rook f to c8 is a new move, so now as of move 13, we have a completely new game. Rook a to c1, and now bishop to c5, putting pressure on that f2 pawn, so you have to be a little bit careful, but now Fabi closes the center. He plays e5, chases away the knight, knight to e8, and now knight to f1, remaneuvering the knight to e3. We have queen to d8 by Giri, now freeing up the b6 square for the knight, and now knight to e3. And here we have knight to c7. Now the knights are coming to b6 and a6, and then you will have some very nice control over the queen side. And here Fabi should consider c4 to prevent this b5 breakthrough, but he goes king to h1 first, a nice prophylactic idea, as he might have some plans of pushing f4 at some point, but now he allows b5. We have knight to d4, putting pressure on the c6 pawn. Now b captures on a4 first. And now you could capture on c6, but we're just going to move the queen and nothing fun is happening there. So b captures on a4, and now we have knight to b6. It's a really complicated position, and if you load it into the engine, it says that knight to a6 is close to winning for Anish, but it's, I mean, from a human standpoint, this is very hard to even imagine. For example, okay, you will put a rook on the b file, that bishop on b2 is weak, and the knight can come to, for example, to b4. But let's say knight to b3, you're going to play bishop captures on e3, and now after queen captures, you're going to push c5, and this is seemingly overwhelming for black. And if you asked Anish this, he would definitely agree, but I guess from that position after b captures on a4, it's a bit hard to see. But okay, knight to b6 was played. We have rook to a1, now defending the a4 pawn. This is this kind of makes even more sense because you move the knight with tempo. Knight to a6, and now knight to b3. So attacking the bishop, but now he doesn't capture on e3, he goes back, bishop to e7, and now as Fabi prepared it, the king is on h1, he executes f4, and now he wants to play f5 and open up the position. So here again, c5 could be an idea, but Anish still waits with it. He plays queen to d7, and now Fabi strikes with f5 on the king side. We have e captures on f5, and now queen to f3, preparing to pile up on this f5 pawn, maybe rook to f1, maybe even double rooks on the f file. We're going to play bishop to h3, and then at some point capture this. So knight to c5, offering a trade of knights. We have knight captures, bishop captures, and now we have d4, chasing the bishop back, bishop to e7, and now bishop to h3. So putting more pressure on that f5 pawn before we recollect it. And now we have g6. Of course, Anish defends this pawn, but this also means that he's weakening his king side. So Fabi strikes with the g4. He really wants to open up the files for the attack, and now f4. Attacking this knight, asking, do you maybe want to capture this? And then I'm going to play g5, and I like my position. So here we have g5 first. Very nicely done, offering the knight on e3. And if you capture this, we're just going to play bishop captures on d7. The queen is hanging if you missed this when g5 was played. So queen to a7, we have to move the queen. And now here Fabi played bishop captures on c8. And again, the position is incredibly complicated, and a move like knight to g4 is winning for Fabi here. But it's such an ugly position that even for an engine like Fabi, it's hard to calculate. For example, bishop captures on g5. Now bishop to c1, who sees moves like like this. And now after h5, attacking the knight, knight f6 check, bishop captures, e captures, and look at this. Look at the dark squares. They're incredibly weak. You can even do something like this. Okay, you will not be able to checkmate black. Black will be in time to prevent this, but it's gonna be held to defend a position like this. So instead, Fabi doesn't go for this. He plays bishop captures on c8. This is already move 31, and players are very low on time. You don't have all that much time to calculate. F captures on e3, and now we have e6 by Fabi. If you move the bishop back with bishop to g4 instead, then we play knight c4, attack the bishop here, and when the bishop moves, bishop captures on g5. And now this pawn is beautifully protected by the knight and by the bishop, and you definitely have compensation for the exchange. So instead, e6 by Fabi, going after this f7 pawn, but now Anish just plays bishop captures on g5. Now the queen guards the f7 pawn, and you should probably go for a queen trade with queen captures on f7, but Fabi plays bishop to d7. Now threatens queen captures on f7. The bishop blocks the queen's defense of the f7 pawn, but Anish just plays f captures on e6 and asks, what are you going to do now? So bishop captures on e6 with check. We have king to h8, and now bishop to a3. This is how we activate our bishop. Now the bishop can come, for example, to d6, to e5, and it looks like that's it for Anish. How are you defending this? Well, of course, we play knight to c4. This is an absolute must for black because you attack the bishop and also you guard this d6 square, so white does not have this maneuver. This would be insane if he could play this. So bishop c5 attacks the queen, queen to g7, and now queen to g4. And this is already move 37. Players incredibly low on time. 3 more moves need to be made for the time control to be reached. We have bishop to f6, attacking the d4 pawn. Well, rather putting pressure on it. So far it's nicely defended, but we can always kick away the white queen maybe. So rook a to b1, and now comes g5, opening up the light square bishop. We have bishop to f5, offering a trade, and now rook to e8, adding another defender to the pawn here. And this is move 39, so both players need to make one more move for time control to be reached. And here Fabi has to play something. Best for white is queen h5. Force that rook to move. After the rook moves, you play something. Rook f1, defend your bishop, and the game continues. Nothing special. Black can still push for something, but objectively it should be fine for white. However, after this rook to e8 move, Fabi played, like I said, it's not one of the greatest blunders ever played, but for a former 2800 player like Fabi, this is just unimaginable for classical chess. But we have to keep that in mind. Okay, this is classical chess, you have infinite time, okay, but it's move 40. You still have to play it to gain additional time because Fabi had, I believe, around 30 seconds on the clock when he played it. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but not enough to go into a deep think or something. Fabi played rook to b6. That's right, and we're gonna do this in slow motion once again. Look at this, rook to b6. and he totally disregards how the knight moves. The knight can also capture backwards, and well, Anish just captured it. Knight captures on b6. I will also put a link. There's a video clip of this. Chess.com even posted it on Twitter, so it will be the first thing in the description below if you want to see it. It's a 1-minute clip where you basically see Fabi's reaction after Giri just picks up this free exchange, and he just walks up the board, and Fabi, you know, he's in complete disbelief. He gained additional time on the clock. He now, you know, has all the time in the world to play, but his position is completely lost. And when I saw this, okay, you immediately see the engine evaluation saying that, okay, this is just trash, but maybe there's something more to it. Maybe there's a human component where you know, Fabi can complicate something, and maybe it's a really deep positional idea, but it doesn't seem to be the case, because here, okay, bishop captures on b6, and now Anish just trades further. Bishop captures on f5, queen captures, and even bishop captures on d4, and Fabi is left with absolutely nothing. Bishop captures on a5. Okay, he does have the passed a pawn, but now bishop to c3, forcing a trade here as the rook is attacked also as the bishop. So bishop captures, queen captures, and now we've completely traded down into this position where Fabi is just down too much material. Anish is up 2 pawns, and not only that, the pass pawn is already on e3. And I think Fabi is so, I mean, in such a great shock that even if he could defend this for quite some time, he will not be able to. So here we have king to g2. Saying that, okay, you're welcome to capture my rook here, but if you capture the rook, then I just play queen f6 check, and this is a well-known perpetual position where you will, if king goes here, then this is perpetual. If king goes here, this is perpetual. You can't get out of this. So after king g2, queen d2 check was played. We have king to f1, and now, okay, you don't have checkmate. The queen is covering the f2 square. Now king g7. We have queen to d7 with check. Now comes king to f6, offering a rook. Of course, we would be happy to deliver checkmate. So queen d6 check, king f5, queen d7 check, rook to e6 blocking, queen to h7 check, king g4. Now comes queen to f7, attacking and defending. Although you're not really attacking anything, you can't leave the control of the f2 square. So here rook to e4 was played, and it was in this position on move 51 that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So very, very, very sad for Fabi to, you know, for things to end like this. But it's not completely out of the blue. Now rook f4 is coming. You will not be able to keep an eye on the f2 square, and that's it. You can give one more check after the king moves. There's nothing to be done. Queen f5 to guard checkmate. Just this, and you have to give up. You have to give up the queen, and that's it. So, of course, after rook to e4, he resigned. And, yeah, for a former 2800 member, club member in classical chess, this is unthinkable for something like this to happen. This rook to b6 move, just, you know, placing it in front of the knight. But this is chess. Things like this happen. They will always happen, and it happened here. So just wanted you to know that it didn't happen like with infinite time on the clock. If Fabi had only seconds on the clock, but still, it's so overwhelming that this actually happened in classical chess. So yeah, I could just repeat that for like 100 times because it's so amazing. But okay, that's enough for this video. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Always, you know, be mindful of how the knight moves. So hope you enjoyed that. I would like to thank Matthew Valdez, Mohan Chudalandi, Malaki Hevaken, Ron Swanson, and Tom Earl for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this fine event until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.